Hello everybody, Zeidoktor here, and this episode of the Typical Manga Review is going to be dedicated to My Hero Academia. Chapter, 112, What's the Big Idea? And we're opening on a flashback with Inasa. And he's thinking to himself, he's never been scared of anything as far as he can remember. He's the type who could get into anything. And first panel has him oh, these bugs are cool, while girls are freaking out behind him. And as a result, before he knew it, he was totally obsessed with heroes. They dive headfirst in trouble and give it their all. That red-hot fighting spirit meant everything to me. Which is why he did not like Endeavor. He had this gaze full of hate towards something far off. He was the only thing in the world Inasa could not stand. And then we go back to the UA entrance exam, where we see Inasa and Todoroki and a few others being part of it. And the test in this case is apparently their test was different from what Deku and them did. It was a 3-kilometer foot race, but not a race that can be finished just by running, so they're allowed to make use of their quirks to reach the goal. Okay. And then Inasa was thinking to himself that this is the greatest hero school in all of Japan, and the most hot-blooded school experience this country has to offer is waiting for me. And then Todoroki just blasts right by him by making ice so fast it propels him forward. Inasa notes this, and he also notes that Todoroki does have he's actually being bothered by his eyes, the look in his eyes. But I gotta give the guy credit for red hot skills. Dude's probably gonna pass. Whatever. I'll use this chance to make friends with him. Maybe that icy stare doesn't mean a thing. And then Inasa actually managed to win the race by a hair, just bare photo finish. And notice that both of them were 3 minutes less than the average time. Inasa celebrating his victory, but who can say about next time? You're awesome, man. You must be Endeavor's son or something, right? Too cool. This is probably the wrong thing to say, because at this point, Todoroki's shove it. Passing it, this is a test. Passing's all that matters. We're not competing or anything. And as Todoroki's telling him to move, Inasa noticed that Todoroki's not even looking at him. And that seems to be where a lot of that stems from. Back in the present, we see Deku's screaming out what the big idea was with them almost killing Shindo, and this actually seemed to snap the two of them out of it. In the stand, we see a couple of people noticing that I'd expect more from such top schools. It might be over for those two. Too bad. The Muppet Man is watching as well, though I'm not quite sure what to make of his expression other than waka waka waka. Or maybe Statler or Waldorf will be a better choice, I don't know. Todoroki realized that with his wind quirk that he was the same guy from back then, from that test. Todoroki's wondering why he didn't remember him sooner, especially someone as annoying as that. He realized it's because he never took a really good look at him. All he cared about was rejecting Endeavor. And he forgot all about Inasa, and whether that's good, bad, or something in between. Todoroki's apparently been in a haze ever since that day. So this is what I get. My past, my blood, that's not stuff I can just easily forget. And while he's being introspective, Gang Gorka decides to make a move. He uses his sound waves to get at Inasa, knock him down. Between that and a cement gun from the guys on the ground, their 1-2 combo with the big fish, which is not technically accurate since he's an orca, but whatever. Let's get out there and make stats out of the rest of these kids. This is pretty much what they're declaring. Inasa can't control his wind, and he's down. But Todoroki can't react because Gang Orca does the same thing to him and takes him down too. Inasa notes that Inasa's not out completely because of the range, at least. And then the mooks are gonna clean up, mess with the evacuation effort while he's cleaning that up. And we see Todoroki's realizing Deku's right with that. It's I become everything I hated. It was my own accident that caused this. I've got to make up for it somehow. Actually, I wonder if this is a case where they're both thinking the same thing. Their thoughts are kind of lined up there. We'll see. And then we see that they said those guys have broken through but before Deku can step in act, Shindo actually manages to send an earthquake to scatter them, get in their way. Deku's surprised because he thought he'd been paralyzed by Gang Orca, but Shindo's quirk kind of has that as an after effect anyway, so he's got a little resistance to it. And it's like, then he pretty much like does a 180. He's like, what the heck was that sneaky crap they pulled? Those two first years almost killed me. Deku's like, he's a little unstable. But he also tells Deku that now he's stripped him up, it's up to Deku to stop him for good. Split up and get the rest of those victims to safety. We see some help. We see some pro rescuees like watching, like, And then back at the Gang Orca fight. Again, now that I look at this again, I'm wondering if this is all Todoroki's thoughts, or if it's even Inasa, or if it's just both of them together. Like, they're like all that pointless showboating, zero teamwork, not a hint of cooperation. No way I'll ever be a top hero at this rate. But if you're thinking the same thing as me over there, we'll swoop in from below, because the heat made the wind rise. And one of them is like thinking that he's so numb he can't move a muscle, but they've got to do it. They'll use fire and wind to seal him up, and they basically create a flame tornado between them. And that's where the chapter ends on that. Alright, seriously, now that I'm looking at this, I don't know who's going through that monologue. I'm inclined to think Todoroki, but some of the same stuff we're seeing is the same as, could also just as easily apply to Inasa. So that's interesting. I might throw that in the conversations or topics or something there. But this is definitely I think I've seen a few people comment this was kind of a lackluster chapter despite how awesome the flame tornado was. Because it was just like more development. I think it's in some cases it was just like a bit of bias. Like they weren't very fond of Todoroki. But yeah, that is pretty much what this chapter is. Like it's pretty much the two of them realizing that they done goofed and needing to do something to make up for it. And keeping up from last week though, and since it kind of got mentioned by the characters, I wonder if this is it for the two of them. Like if neither of them has a chance at passing, or if only one of them does. So it'll be interesting to see how that comes up at the end. At the very least, Shindo and Deku seem to be still in the running, just because they actually are acting appropriately. Like Shindo managed to get a shot in despite being wounded. Deku is the one who snaps the two of them out of it, and is about to take on the Mooks. So the small fish, I should probably say. But all in all, there's like beyond what I've already kind of described, there's not like a lot of new stuff this chapter. Just a little more elaboration on Inasa's grudge against Todoroki. The only thing now is, like I said, that whole internal monologue thing. Who is thinking that? Because it could just as easily apply to Todoroki and Inasa. And then on the very last page, it's like, it's part of it's like, if you're thinking the same thing as me over there, and the thought goes, the heat made my wind rise. I'm not quite sure what to make of that, but and I could even see this being a case of them both thinking the same thing, like actually building up to that moment where they're like, if you're thinking the same thing as I am over there, which would actually be pretty cool if you stop and think when I think about that. And that whole flame tornado thing is pretty cool. Though I don't know if it'll actually stop King Orca for good, or if it'll be enough to put him down for the test, but still pretty impressive. But yeah, like I said, the biggest development here is just mostly in Todoroki realizing that he's still kind of like letting Endeavor kind of like define what he does or how he acts, and that's how it kind of got in the way of it here. And Inasa as well, like he's thinking to himself like, I became everything I hated. Because that was I think the thing that threw me off on that. Because yes, it is in front of Inasa, which is one thing I thought about, but it could be just as true of him. Like, I mean, he likes to compete, but he's not like angry about it. He's not like vicious about it or anything. But Todoroki just seemed to set him off the wrong way. So it seemed like I hit the wrong button with him, and basically made him do the exact same thing he hated Endeavor and Todoroki for doing. So that's probably going to be a big issue going forward here. Like I said, everything I can think of I kind of already covered last week. The like stuff with Todoroki and Inasa's possible passing or failing, things like that. I think I already covered a while back. Some nice stuff from Shindo as we're kind of seeing as Deku sees his actual personality crop up. But nothing really like on the humor side. Some nice action. This is, I think, one reason why I tried to kind of like find stuff to discuss, because it's outside of the flashback, it's mostly an action chapter. And it's probably just part of me just not being a natural, that sort of thing either. In any case, I'm going to go ahead and just call the review here in that instance. Sorry, repetition. I'm going to go ahead and call the review here. That's been the typical manga review of My Hero Academia, chapter 112. So until next time, you have a good week, and I'll see you then. Bye.